Hello, animation fans, and welcome to another iAnimate podcast. I'm your host, Larry Vasquez, and joining me is Rick Arroyo. How you doing, buddy?
Really good, Larry. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, man. This is an introduction for podcast 78 with Patrick Giusiano. This was an awesome interview. Patrick has been in the animation industry for over 20 years, and he has not lost his enthusiasm for it, as you'll see in this podcast. He's worked in the VFX industry. He's worked in Cartoony over at Blue Sky Studio, and he's been over at DreamWorks now, finishing up their Croods 2 movie. So he's worked on VFX, Cartoony, you name it, and he loves this medium. And so it's really, really cool to have him on this podcast, as well as you'll hear in this interview, he's going to be one of our feature instructors, our new feature animation instructors. He'll be teaching workshop
5. That's right. He's going to be teaching workshop 5. He has so much knowledge and experience to share. He is ready. I'm actually super excited about his workshop. I'm going to be sneaking in maybe here or
That's
there.
What I said.
Yeah. Just let you know. If you see me, it's just like, oh, I saw him.
Yeah, there you go. So this will be full body acting and facial lip sync. So definitely check this one out if you want to hone up your game, as well as if you're in our currently workshops and working through the feature program. Definitely check out Patrick. Before we get into the podcast, we have a couple announcements.
That's right. Enrollment starts this week. So we're really excited about that. So make sure that you keep a very close eye, and if not, enroll now before workshops sell out again. We also have a new Blender workshop. So it's Blenders for Animators. So anyone that really wants to get into that community or looking to, work overseas and need those skills, we got Luciano, who's going to be teaching our workshop. He's a really awesome guy, really big in the Blender scene, and he really knows his stuff as much as he's a feature animator as well. So he's going to be teaching that. And lastly, just a reminder that the industry is changing, man. The industry is growing. Netflix is doing a lot. Disney is doing a lot. There's a lot of great feature animation programs coming out. As much as the game industry has grown, and this year you can expect more through the feature side. So, get your stuff ready.
All right. And Blender's obviously been making some nice headway into the industry with their program there, and free program is
the animation software is free, and their community, we have so much in common. Their community is really strong. They love talking to each other. They love sharing. They love helping. And that's what iAnimate's about, and that's why I was like, I think this is great that we have Blender at iAnimate, and so I'm really excited about that workshop as well.
All right. Speaking about growing and sharing, the last announcement we have is all Game Workshop 3 students will now have access to our Unreal lectures as well as our motion capture lectures. So that works out for Game Workshop 3 students as well as game alumni. So definitely just another opportunity to grow in your skill set. So complimentary of the workshop that you join in for Workshop 3.
Yeah, we love giving to the community, so that's really exciting.
Awesome. All right. So speaking about exciting, let's jump into this podcast with Patrick. All right. Well, Patrick, we always love to thank our guests for joining us. We know you guys got schedules, and just as we were talking about beforehand, everybody's got something going on. So we just really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. As we kind of mentioned beforehand, looking at your bio on our website, really, really cool work that you've got to work on in studios that you've been able to work on or work with. How did you get in animation? What drove you here? You've got 20 plus years, cool films. What made you want to get in animation?
But the thing is, I never thought I would be an animator. I was living in France. To me, animation was like for people working in the US, doing like big movies and all that. And it felt like another world. So I was more into like I graduated in industrial design. I was more into science and things like that. And then, coming from that, I've been learning AutoCAD, this kind of software that does like industrial stuff. And at this point, I remember it was in 2000, there was this version of AutoCAD that could extrude models. Like, so you would do the plan and you could extrude them and put a camera in it. And I was like, whoa, that's so crazy. I can move inside something. So yeah, I think that was kind of the aha moment where I was like, that's what I'd like to do. And yeah, I was looking around like what was possible to do. I wasn't that good with computers. So I tried to learn, tried to do some internship, try to understand how it works. And I found a job in a small company, like in Luxembourg. So for me, like in France, I was in south of France. So south of France, nothing, no studios, nothing. There were a few studios that were doing some advertising work in Paris, but yeah, nothing around. And there was in Luxembourg this small studio named Oniria Pictures. So they were doing their first movie, and I was like, okay, why not? I wasn't even paid when I came there. It was supposed to teach me, and that happened like that. So they taught us how to animate, and one was coming from Disney, the other was had been working with Spielberg on stuff, visual effects, and I started to learn about animation there, and it wasn't as much as how they taught us, but it's how the people around, and I think it's the same even in schools like your school. A lot of time it's the students themselves that teach each other, and you just need to have the info available, and then everyone tries to understand and try to teach the other. And that's what happened to me. Like everyone was so interested by animation and so into it that we just nourished each other. And yeah, most of them now they are working in Weta, in Disney, all coming from Luxembourg, this small company.
What was it for that company? You mentioned you didn't have much of a background in animation. What was it for that company that wanted to invest in people interested in animation? So
the thing in this company, I think they had this big background working with Americans, and they wanted to build something in Europe, and they didn't have any budget. So their idea was trying to teach anyone. So it was really anyone. Except for AutoCAD, I couldn't do anything. The thing I remember is I wasn't sure. I wanted to be a modeler, and it was more like architecture stuff. Mm-hmm. And I had a good job that was paid doing that. So I was like, okay, this way I can make a living. That's good. And there was this company, Oniria Pictures in Luxembourg, and they proposed me the job that wasn't paid for a few months, just to teach me like 4 months. And I was like, oh, that's not good. My girlfriend, I was planning to marry her and everything. I was like, oh, that's really not good. And then I went to the cinema. I saw Tarzan, and I was like, Tarzan, the movie, the Disney movie.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, that's so cool. Animation is so cool. I need to take the risk. Like I need to be an animator. So yeah, I went there, and yeah, that's how it started. I remember they have this house. So I went there thinking, wow, it's animation. It's gonna be like Disney. There's gonna be this big campus. It's gonna be written in big. And I arrived. It was a small house. There was nothing. And I was like.
Like a house?
Yeah.
Like a house?
Yeah, a real house. Yeah, it wasn't a studio. It was just a house. So I was kind of disappointed. And then they moved to something that looked a bit better, but it wasn't that great anyway. But I learned there. I learned everything there. So.
Now, did you start out with animation there, or were you more of a generalist there?
Yeah, it was animation. Like they asked me, do you think you could animate? They asked me to do a test, and it was really bad. So the guy sent me some feedback and told me, you should try to do an acting, try to do this and that. And I think, I don't know, there was a click at this moment. I was like, oh, I see exactly what he wants and what he needs. So I redid the test, trying to follow what he said. And he loved it. And I think I could see it. Like what I did the second time was like 10 times better. And he said, if you were able to do that, he told me that's not good. But if you were able to do that in a matter of 2 weeks, I'm confident you're going to be a good animator.
You'll pick it up, huh?
Yeah.
What was it that, okay, you said you came more from a architectural background, which tends to be more methodical and structured and things of that nature. Was any of that helpful in learning animation, or was it just something that, you know, maybe you had a characteristic like you mentioned here for acting that kind of something just clicked in your ability? What was it that kind of helped you feel like you pick up on it pretty quick?
Yeah, I think both parts helped me. Like in my studies, I used to be in physics and stuff like that. So it was lasers, and I was really passionate about lasers. So all that, there's a lot of methodology. And I think, you know, using rigs in animation, using a software, you need to tame the software if you want to be, like, if you want to do exactly what you want to do. And I hate when I can't do exactly what I want. So I need to know everything about the software. I need to know every detail, every workaround. So all that, I think, yeah, all the technology, all the things I've learned before, it really helped me. And apart from that, there's, yeah, the acting stuff. Because I was more of an artist guy before that. And it was more my parents who would tell me, you should study in physics, like art, it's not a job. And it's true, like because I'm telling the same to my kids, so I can see.
The real truth is out, right? It's like, you don't want to do this, it's hard, you know, it's not a lifestyle. Yeah. Become a doctor.
And yet he's working for DreamWorks, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But in a way, I can see what they were saying, because in south of France, you wouldn't work for DreamWorks. If you're an artist, you would paint something and try to sell it. And yeah, it's not the same market there.
Yeah. The opportunities were different back then also, right? Things are, exactly. the world is changing. There's going to be remote work everywhere now. But before, like most parents would have said that, especially in Europe, it's like, there's no way you're going to get a big job in the film industry, right? In the smaller areas. So.
I wasn't even thinking about the film industry. I was thinking like painting or doing like drawings. I don't know. I had no idea. I didn't care. I wasn't like, oh, I love school and math and stuff like that. But then, yeah, that's the part of me that you know, I think that's where I take the artistic side in animation. Like I was, you know, always reading comic books, and that's crazy because now I can feel that all the poses I use in animation, I take it from the comic books I was reading. It's all these, especially like I really like working on fingers. And if you see those comics, there are some poses that are really interesting. And I was all about that. Like, wow, how did they draw that? So, yeah.
So very, very observant then, huh?
Yeah.
Very nice. So how long were you there at that studio in Luxembourg?
Oh, it lasted like maybe a year and a half. It was
okay.
Long,
so it had some major time to get under your belt. At least you're starting off. It was almost like school there.
The thing is, at this point, I remember in France, there weren't that many schools or any ways to have a lot of experience. So at this point, after a year and a half, I was kind of good in a sense that they were looking for people like me to hire on other studios in France. And I was like, wow. Now, if I see the reel I had at this point, that was horrible. But at this point, I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And I remember, so then I applied to go to Paris in this company named Shaman. So, Rick, you might know the company, right? The company who did Kaina.
Yes, yeah, we worked on the same project. You don't have as much gray as I do, so I'm giving it away.
Yeah, we were pretty young, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I applied to this company, and they were doing this movie. It was the first French CG movie, so it was crazy. I remember watching these images of Kaina, and it was really good. Like it felt like Star Wars to me. I felt that was really nice, and I remember applying there and thinking, I hope they're gonna take me. I hope they're gonna give me a contract or something. And I remember the production director calling me and asking me a few details like how much I want to be paid, how good I'm supposed to be, if I'm a senior or whatever. So I'm trying to explain what I expect, what I'd like to do there. And I remember the discussion take a while. And at some point, I understand that the production manager was asking me, are you good? Do you have experience? And I was thinking, what should I do at this point? Because I don't think I have a ton of experience, but she's asking me. So should I
lie?
Yeah,
that's the real question.
Yeah. And I said,
embellish it.
I've worked a lot. Like there was a lot of different characters, and the rigs were complicated. And she asked again, like, but are you like a senior animator? Like, can you handle stuff? And I was like, you know what? I feel I can handle stuff. So
there you go.
I told her, like, I'm really good. Like I'm going to come and I'm going to do a real good job because I'm a senior animator. I knew it was all a lie. But and I was so surprised because that was all she was waiting for.
Some confidence?
Yeah. She needed me saying that. And then
Patrick's
I got hired.
what did I just do?
Yeah.
No, I was super happy. I knew I could handle it because like, I was so into it, so into animation. I knew like just going there, I would do a good job.
You give your heart out. Yeah.
Yeah. You know how you feel when you're so passionate about something. You're like, I know it's going to be difficult, but I'm going to nail it. If awesome. I need to work like 24/7, I'm going to do it.
I think I now got to jump on this.
Yeah.
So, okay, and that was a gold nugget for our audience, right? The fact that, you're a young artist, we all been there, super enthusiastic. That asks you the real question. Can you do the job, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, back then it was a different time. It was a different world. I love that you were like so confident and you knew that you had to bring it. I mean, it was the first major French CG movie. It was, probably the first CG movie in like in most of Europe, right? It was big. Like the pressure was pretty high, even for like anyone that worked on that project. It had to be good. But so I love that. I think that's a great gold nugget. But my question is, Patrick, now you directed, you're a supervisor, you worked on all these major movies. Do you think you would give the same answer if it was today?
I think yes. I think I still have the same, because things didn't change that much. I know that my level is much better now.
Yeah.
But I'm still like, I still feel that at some point I'm gonna fail or I'm not good enough. When you have this shot that is huge. Yeah. And there's all this complexity, and you feel that it's an important moment in the movie. You want to please the director. You have all that, and then you're like, what's the point of doubting? The idea is just to rush into it and pour everything I have. So yeah, I think that's the only way. If I doubt, it's just going to slow me down. So I'm gonna just go into it, think I'm gonna make it. In the back of my mind, I'm like, everyone is gonna see I won't be good. I won't make it work, and then it works. So I'm like, don't stress. Just do it. You don't know how it's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen.
Wow,
I like that, man. I like that.
That is come on, Larry. Tell me, like,
no, that's great. Sometimes you got to preach to yourself, man. You got to hey, keep going. We got this. And that's great.
And the fact it's Patrick, man, like super talented. And, there's this thing in the discussion, I think it was on Twitter. Someone came like, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? And even Glenn Keane on his talk, 2 weeks ago, talked about imposter syndrome, that everyone goes through it. Even Glenn says, like, even I sometimes question, like, am I good enough? Like the fact that the highest level artists, we will all say, there's a time where we're like, oh man, this is hard, but you got to encourage yourself.
That's the only way to be creative. If you think you're at the top of the top, you stop there. It's just, you get used to stuff, and it happens sometimes. Sometimes you're on a show and you can feel you're not at the top of yourself. And you're like, I shouldn't feel like that. I should push myself and I should be in danger. I remember this guy from Pixar.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that in Pixar, the way he presented it wasn't that romantic, but he said they push us to show shitty stuff on screen. And I was like, what? In Pixar? And he said, yeah, the idea is not to put in front of the others something that is something you would expect. They want something that's surprising, take risks, and take many risks, and then they're going to pick the best of it and try to push toward that. And I kind of understand that. Now, when I do an animation, there's a way to do it safely. And you're like, okay, I'm going to make it, but I've done this kind of animation. Or you're going to do something that's going to surprise everyone, even the director. And that's a tough place, because surprising the director is not always the best situation.
That is so true. You were like, I didn't ask for that, man.
Exactly. So you want that. You want, I didn't ask for that, but that's great. And that's a really risky situation.
You want to wow the man. There's so much gold nuggets. Take risks, but you also, it almost sounds like take calculated risks. That's something I like to say. It's like, you know, it's good to take risks. And the students are going to be so lucky to learn from you. Oh my goodness. Like, okay, we got to continue, Larry. We're on fire, man. Like, this is like fire emojis, you know? This is awesome.
So we get these guys in here teaching. That's why, man.
Yeah.
So now from that studio, how long were you I forgot the name of the studio. I'm sorry.
It was Shaman at this point. Then it got bought back by Gaumont Studio. So it's a big French cinema thing that bought them back. The movie didn't finish well here, so they bought it to finish, pour money into it. The studio was doing 2D animation at this point, and they were willing to switch to 3D. So by buying Shaman, they were hoping, learning about 3D. It didn't go well because the cultures didn't match, I guess. So in Shaman, I don't know, I might have stayed there for 2 years or something like that. Then I stayed for a year in Gaumont. It's Xilam also, the name. It wasn't the right fit for me. So then from there, then from there I went to Attitude Studio, which is a company that were doing. They were really well known in France for their motion capture. So when there, I wasn't sure what to expect. I'm an animator. I love Keyframe, motion capture. I wasn't sure, and then I learned a ton of things. So that's where, and I think it helps me even now, because it's more about subtle animation, about physicality. And motion capture, really helped me into all these details. The thing is, on Kaina, I became supervisor at the end of the show. I started supervisor in Attitude Studio, who were doing motion capture. And at this point, that was also great, because I arrived in this company where there were keyframe animation for things that were like crazy stuff, superhero animation that couldn't be done with motion capture. And then motion capture for actings and walking and crowd and stuff like that. And it was two separate worlds. And I arrived there, and it was almost a fight. There was it was boiling there. And I could see that, and it was really difficult to work with both departments. And I tried to start to speak to both parties. And then after a while, I was able to mix everyone together, and we were able to make the best animation when everyone was able to work together.
Make a community, right? You know, it's funny you say that, because back then, right? Not to sound dated or anything, but back then, like 2D was like one thing. The 3D artists that were coming in, making this whole different industry was like a whole nother thing. And then motion capture kicked in. Yes, it was there in 1998. Just, you know, and it was like, oh, motion capture. It's like, we still have some of that today, but you know,
it's almost a shame. Like they were like, oh, that's motion capture. Come on.
Yeah, but now, I mean, if you are current with what's happening with the industry and the potentials, you should adore motion capture as an animator and know where you can take it. But the fact that you were dealing with it, like, you know, in 2003, you know, it's amazing.
And I could find out that those people who were working on motion capture, they just wished to learn about animation, because at the end of the day, it's movement. So they were trying to improve the movement on the motion capture. And on the other side, the guys from the keyframe, they were like, oh, you're stealing my job because you're doing movement faster than me, and it's not art and whatever. So when everyone worked together, the people from motion capture, they learned how to animate because I tried to teach them, and they loved it. And the people who were doing animation, I was like, you know what? This animation, it's pretty tough. It's going to be like crowd walking and all that. You don't want to do that. It's good that motion capture is there, so you can focus on what you like action
or the performance or
superhero stuff.
Exactly.
So it worked. It worked well. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So from this company, it was a relatively big company in France, and we started to work with Disney, with DreamWorks. We had some short movies with them, some advertisement with them, and we started Nine, the movie, in the studio.
Yeah.
Started also Gnomeo and Juliet there.
Okay.
For me it was like, wow, that's it. We are touching the dream. We are starting to work with Americans, and you need to know that in France, maybe it's overrated, but in France, we were like, wow, working with Americans is like, whoa, that's big, that's huge.
It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, that was crazy. So I met, for Gnomeo and Juliet, there was Kelly Asbury, the director of Spirit, deceased a few months ago, I think. So the guy is super nice, came to see us. We had this dinner, and we were about to work together, and I was super into the movie, super passionate, and then I don't know, the mismanagement in the studio, what happened with the budget or whatever, the studio starts to fall down, everything collapsed, and I was like, oh, so it's like the dreams slipping away, and my wife didn't want to move to the US, and I was like, oh, I'm stuck in France, and I have this dream that was almost true, and it's impossible. It's like you almost touched the star and you didn't get it, and so I had to do something. So finding jobs that weren't really exciting, I was like, I really want to work on, because when you work in animation on characters that are not well rigged, well designed, well modeled, it's a bit difficult to push the quality. So I need to push more than what I can get from a studio in France on advertising or small.
You felt limited, right?
Yeah, I felt completely limited, because if you don't have the right shape, which now I see, I looked a little bit into the rigs you are proposing, and already I'm like, wow, if I had that when I started, all those controls, I could see you have other controls on top of smooth controls. And I didn't have that. So if you don't have the blend shape, you can't do the face you want, and then the animation doesn't look good.
You can't go into that fine details. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I couldn't. So I think I had my third child at this point. She was a few months ago, and I told to my wife, you know what? I'm going to stop working for the first time in my life. And I'm going to work at home, and I'm going to do what I want myself. I'm going to try to do my character, try to build my own rigs and stuff, and animate with it. And I remember she was telling me, you're crazy, we just have a baby and all that. I want to do it. So I would work until 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So she was waking during the night to nurse the baby, and I could hear her, but I was still working. And,
you're like priorities. I'm playing with fire.
With you in spirit, hon. Yeah.
And at this point, I remember I had this project. I loved Remy in Ratatouille. I loved the character, so I was. You know what? I don't care. I don't want to do a short movie. It's going to take too long. I don't have this time. I have a family. I can't do more than 4 months. So I'm going to build the character, the rig, the facial, everything. And I'm going to try to do just a short animation and send it to Pixar. And they're going to take me.
I love your confidence, man.
Yeah, man.
But to do it, you really need to feel passionate about it and to think it's going to work. even if there was like no way it could work, I stopped working and doing it. I was like, what? Maybe I might have been in my 30s. So doing that, working hard, doing my animation. And I remember it's funny because I sent it, never heard about them back. And I was like, oh, that's too bad. They didn't like it or whatever. So yeah, I didn't think about it. And then it's funny because I went to an interview at Pixar, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. It was for The Good Dinosaur. And so I met with the supervisors and everything. And at some point they asked me what I did, whatever. And I'm like, oh, you received, right? You received. It's funny because I really thought at this point that they really saw this test. They never saw it. I mean, they don't care. Like they have so many.
Yeah, they get a lot.
They didn't see that. And I was sure at this point, it's 6 years, so I wasn't just young or naive, but still I was like, oh, I'm sorry, you might have received it. It was a while ago. It wasn't that great. And they were like, no, we didn't receive that thing. And I was like, oh. And they are like, can you show us? And I had my laptop and everything. And I was like, no.
Just know when to.
That's it.
Just no, you don't want to see this.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, this time is gone. You don't want to see it. And they were like, no, but don't you worry. Like we won't take it for the animation itself. We want to see what you did because it's been a while. You were passionate, so just show it. So I showed them, and they were really impressed with it. I think it wasn't that much about the animation, but the character really looked like Remy. All the shapes, the rig, the way it moved, and all that. And they were like, whoa, you were able to
embrace and put it all together
and take the process and go back and try to rebuild it from the results you saw on screen. And I say that's exactly what I was trying to prove, because that's what I want to do. I want to create a character where I can push the shapes and all that. So I wanted to do the reverse, see how you did, because that's what I was interested in. And it's not the animation itself. I tried to animate with it. I didn't have the level at this point. But yeah, I was able to build the character. And I remember this guy. So they were laughing and they liked the thing. And I was like, wow, you know what? We're going to call Brad Bird and show him. And I was laughing. And I said, no, seriously. And the guy take the phone. And in my head, I was like, seriously?
Oh, shit.
I mean, Pixar.
Oh, sorry. Beat that one out.
So I started like, I was right. And the guy, no, I'm joking. I was like, oh, come on.
Oh, man, you got me sweating.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I slipped. I was like, oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't even see it coming. Like, oh, Brad Bird is really here. Like,
Now, was that at the studio there in the Bay Area?
No, at this point I was working in Blue Sky. I jumped a little bit in time. I was working in Blue Sky. I got this opportunity in Pixar. It didn't work for me because it was supposed to be a year contract with the family. I wasn't sure. And then they diminished the contract 10 months. And then I was like, what's happening? And then that was for The Good Dinosaur. They stopped the movie for a while. So I did well. I didn't take the opportunity to go there. I would have loved to work at Pixar, but at this point, it wasn't the right moment. But yeah, during this time, I was in Blue Sky. They offered, so I jumped a bit in time.
How did you get from France to the US?
So the thing is, I did this test, didn't work, didn't help. So I was like, I won't be able to go to the US. It's too big of a leap. I need bigger projects, and in France there was nothing at this point. So I kept working from home, doing stuff with what I had from Disney and DreamWorks. So I had rigs, I had Shrek, I had things that they would send us. So I started to do animation with that, and when I got these animations, I sent it to Double Negative in London, and they were doing this movie, John Carter. So I was like, wow, that's Andrew Stanton producing, directing. Yeah. So that was a big leap, and I was thinking that's maybe the sparkle what I need to jump from where I am. But that was also super difficult because if they would take me, my wife didn't want to go to anywhere else than France, and especially not a country speaking English, because we were speaking French and that's all. So that was pretty difficult. And with the girls, I was like, oh, that's going to be difficult. But I sent it anyway. I told her, there's no chance. I told her I sent it, but there's no chance they're going to contact me.
There's a lot of brave things he does. I mean, right, Larry? Is it me? I think he's super. Sure. Like, I mean, sure. Hey, I mean, look, he's with iAnimate. He's brave. Like, you got to be strong. If you're going to do this, you got to say, hey, I want to do this. You got to be hungry and want to do it. So, I mean, it's perfect.
You really need to. Yeah, you need to be brave at this point, because I remember I was also playing at Disney at this point, and you have to understand that there was no reels I could watch on the internet. Nothing I could understand what was the level to be working in these studios. Yeah. So in a way, it was good because that kept me willing to grow, and I wasn't discouraged because I had no idea what was the real level. But on the other side, I think now every animator can see on the internet, on Vimeo, all the reels, all the making of, all that, what they need to reach. So I remember speaking with the recruiter in Disney, and I asked him, what do you need from me? I think I'm sending you the best animation I can. So what do you need to hire me? And the guy is telling me, I don't know, you need to improve your level. And I'm like, can you send me a reel? I want to see what kind of animator you're hiring.
Looking for.
And he tells me, I can't do that, but just watch our movies and see the level you need to reach. And I was like, what? That's impossible. Of course I don't have your level. I need to work for you. And then I think that was the best advice the guy gave me, because it really moved me. I was like, what is he saying? That's important. I will never reach this level. And then I understood, if they hire me, that's because I'm bringing something. Yeah. They need me to be at this level at least, or bringing something more, especially when you come from France, because they need to do a visa, they need to move you there. So you need to be really good to show that you're better than someone they could pick from the US. So I was like, oh, that's going to be tough. So that's where I made the thing and I sent the reel. I was like,
so
London.
Now so you got picked up by them, right? At Double Negative?
In Double Negative, yeah. They called me. They were like, okay, we offer you a job there. It was a really small salary. And I was like, I can't move there with the whole family. It's impossible. So I moved there alone. And we thought it's Paris, London. There's a train, so it's 2 hours away. So I was like, every week I'm going to come back. So for 7 months, I had to go back and forth. I had the kids in Paris. So you need to be really passionate at this point, because
and flexible.
And I love my family. I'm really I love my kids. So living for 7 months, it was really hard. Difficult. Yeah, so I was doing it, but I was heartbroken doing it.
So consider this, right? You this is your third child, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Third child. You're in your 30s, and you're pushing hard, and you're making a huge commitment to, both for your family and your responsibilities, your career. And I think, sometimes animators was like, hey, I'm going to become a monster animator in a year. I mean, there are a few that really are like super sponge. It's true, right? There are a few, but it takes years to really get it at, say, and you even asked, I wrote that, what do you need from me? Right? It gets years before you even know how to even answer that question. So the audience, I mean, we have nothing but here. Take risks, ask questions, push for quality, be fearless. You were self-learning. independent. Like I have all kinds of notes, right? And this is why, you know, you're part of iAnimate, because you're going to be able to teach us, our students this, but also you lived it. like I'm having a blast tonight. You know? Oh, Larry, I'm so happy, man.
And the part I like too, though, is, you know, you knew it was your family guy, you knew it was for a short time, but it was that part that you're willing to go, look, I got to put in the time. If this is going to happen here, I have to be willing to take that.
How disciplined were you?
Paid off. Yeah.
Yeah. How disciplined were you?
I think at this point I was not disciplined. I was desperate. I was thinking to myself, I don't have any plan B. Like, I really want to do it. I want to be an animator. I want to be working on these big movies, and that's my last chance. So it was like, I don't know, like the last shout, like I'm going to make it. And it was almost like, I'm going to work so hard that if I fail here, it's almost, I need to change. I was doubting at this point, because I was thinking, I remember watching these TV shows where there were these singers, and they were so bad singing, and you could hear it's so bad, but they were sure they were that good. And they say, oh, that's my family, they're telling me I'm that good. I'm like, maybe I'm that. At some point I was so doubting.
American Idol.
It's like, I can make it. No.
Yeah. So I was like, and I said, okay, I need to do the move, because I have the feeling inside me like I'm just slowed down by the rigs, by the projects, by the budgets in France. I need to test myself there. If it works, we'll see. And the thing is, the salary couldn't help me to bring my family there. So I was like, that's already an impossibility. The only chance would be that they raise me and they keep me there and all that. And that's what happened. So when I arrived there, that's exactly what I planned. So the shows, I started on Paul, which is another show than John Carter, which was great. It was full keyframe on a full CG character. And I just enjoyed working. I think I totally expressed myself as an animator. I learned while I was producing, and it worked. I started to be exactly what I was planning. I started to be better and to produce the quality they needed while learning. And yeah, it was happening. So at the end of the show, for John Carter, the Iman Butler, who's the
we've had podcasts with him before too.
Yeah, we know.
The guy is amazing. So the guy come to see me, and he tells me, okay, I know you're a family guy. We want to keep you. So what do you need? And we are going to keep
Killer.
you. And then he helped me bring the family and make it possible. So that was really the dream. I really had, it was a year and a half there. I loved it. Started to work with Andrew Stanton, teams that were crazy talented. Mm-hmm. I started to work like a sponge, trying to understand how they animate and what were the rigs, what was the way of shooting references, what was the way of animating, going back and forth with the supervisors, showing ideas and all that. I learned tons of stuff that were really another level. And that was exactly what I thought it would be. I was just slowed down with the project I was working on.
Right.
So at this point, I was ready at the end of John Carter. I had a reel that was really big for the time. And I was ready to go to work for Disney or for an American studio. So I felt it, built my reel, and sent it to Disney, sent it to Blue Sky. And it was at the end of John Carter. I remember having this interview with Disney. Everything went super well. Then I had this interview with Blue Sky. Everything went super, super well. And they were like, wow, you know what? We want to offer you a job. And it was on the phone, the interview was going. And I was like, oh, wow, seriously? And they're like, yeah, we're going to give you an offer, I think tomorrow. And I was like, wow, that's pretty short. And then they were super excited to have me and all that. So they gave me an offer, and I got it. And I was like, man, I want to go, because those guys, I could feel they wanted me there, and it's half of the excitation, half of the will to move for a company, like thinking that.
That's a big
move. So I moved there, enjoyed my time in Blue Sky, and 4 months later, Disney calls me like, "Oh, yeah, you're still available," and I'm like, "No."
Sorry, I signed.
Yeah. Sorry, that ship sailed.
Yeah. I still want to be friends.
It's funny because for 4 months, my life just went another side, because in New York, it's another type of life.
Yeah.
Blue Sky, it's another style of animation and all that. So I learned a ton of stuff there. That was great. And it's funny because for 4 months, I have other friends who came to Disney and are still there. So I was like, wow, it's crazy. And my life just changed in New York and all that.
Yeah.
But that's, Rick and I are old school on that, man. It's that hard work and dedication that you, that you put in the time, and it's going to pay off. And we love hearing stuff like this, man.
Yeah. And be patient too. I mean, think like you said, like it took time, you got to be patient with it. Don't rush it. Don't get a bad foundation. Get a strong foundation with your career. And then when you get there, when you're like, I made it, then you're going to realize there is, I talked about like difference of experience. It's like, you're like, I made it. No. You just got in. You're like, now you have to work so much harder. Because after, it's like, 10 years. 10 years is great. For to me, 10 years, you just started, right? And after the other 10 years, 20 years, now you really know where you're at. But then there's a whole nother thing happening. And then when you get there, it's like, oh my God, here we go again. You got to be resilient,
And still now. So Blue Sky. And to go back to this situation, sometimes I see new animators coming, especially in the US, because it's a bit easier. I could feel it's easier to work for studios because they are not foreigners. They don't need the visa and all that. And they would come sometimes as intern, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to work on this character. Or I don't like this shot." And I'm like, "Dude, you're crazy. Like, if I had started like you in Blue Sky or in DreamWorks, I would be like, it's heaven. And you're paid to do that. I wasn't paid to do it on the crazy stuff that you're doing."
It's true. I forgot. So, you weren't paid.
And it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
What were some of the biggest hurdles coming from something like a John Carter to a Blue Sky, with where it tends to be more cartoony and very different? Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. So I came from motion capture stuffs. Kaina was really realistic. I arrived on John Carter, visual effects. Paul, double negative. It was Keyframe at this point, because Andrew Stanton didn't want motion capture. Mm-hmm. But still, it had to be like super realistic. Yeah. So arriving at Blue Sky, where everything is so snappy and crazy, cartoony, I was like, wow, I need to adapt to that. But then again, and here it was more of a fun challenge. I would say before that, it was a die or live challenge. I was like, wow, I need to survive in this world, and I don't have the level, and I need to fight to get it. And I put everything at risk to get it, and then I got it. The thing is, when I was in Blue Sky, it was much more different. It was more like, okay, I need to teach myself cartoony animation. There's a ton of animators here. I have the job. I'm not stressed. The only thing is try to sponge all the talents here and try to get this new style. And that's what I did. That was really nice.
And that team was really strong. It was a really strong team. I remember that period of the animators that were there, and we all have buddies that worked at different studios, and Blue Sky one of them. And it was a strong team. So there's a lot of knowledge that was probably pouring in. That's amazing. But a quick question. I wanted to know, how was it when you were working on the Peanut movie, right? Because that style is like super, like it's its own thing. Like I would be like, I'm gonna be honest, I would have been like, oh, okay, like that's something I would really need to like take time to study just to know that I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
That to me, that was one of the most difficult movie we worked on in Blue Sky. because the rest is something that you've seen already in 2D animation, so you can, it's in you already. You just have to push your hands to create it, but your brain already knows the fundamentals about cartoony animation and all that. So when it doesn't work, your brain knows it doesn't work. But with Peanuts, it's just another style. It's something that is done. It was TV series. They were doing it on twos, and there was a magic that happened with the style and the limitations they had, and we had to recreate that and understand where the thing looks great because it's charming, and where it looks cheap because it's just TV animation, and avoid this part. So that was really difficult. Plus, at this point, the rigs were so heavy because everything had to move, to slide, to have like polished faces with the nose that could go from one side to the other.
And you had to play with the volume of the lines too, Yeah,
exactly. All that was super complex. So the rigs were really heavy, heavy to the point we almost couldn't do anything with it.
Wow.
So the idea was to animate in 2D or use some drawings from Schultz. Like the face, the arms, use them like a puppet, and do your animation like that. Show it to the directors, the supervisors, and when it's really approved, then you translate it without even thinking with the rigs, because the rigs were so heavy you couldn't feel anything. So that was the first time I would work like that. I didn't like working like that.
That's hard, man.
Especially with the IP that was already established that you're trying to target. That's my target. It's not like you can just go, okay, hey, we'll just go in this direction. You're like, that doesn't change what we're trying to sell here. And you guys did a great job in keeping it to that look and feel. So that was no small task.
It looks really nice. All the lines work and everything. That's a lot of work, but that looks really nice.
Yeah, you guys did it justice for sure. But beloved IP like that with slow rigs, I'm sure that was not easy.
I knew it.
High bar, huh?
But then, they improved a lot. Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
No, then the rigs in Blue Sky, they I think after Peanuts, they were like, wow, we need to find some ways to make it faster. And they pushed a lot to get some rigs that are super fast. And then Maya, it became like the parallel mode where kind of caches things, and they use the video card with it. So we started to have some really nice rigs. And I think that's where, to me, animation is that, because I'm not someone that is planning too much. Sometimes I just push the movement on the character. I just push the arm or do something and let it play. And from there, it's like molding something like clay.
You see sculpting.
Something,
Interesting.
Yeah, sculpting.
Yeah, do you that's a question. Yeah, that's good. I'm sorry. Let me ask you, because I want to get into the sculpting thing, right? And talk about the performance, right? Do you find that you're sculpting and finding your performance, kind of like layering the details until you get right to it? Or like, can you explain to what you mean by sculpting and trying things?
It's funny because I've seen this sculptor. The guy is pretty well known. He worked on big Hollywood movies. So he did, I don't remember anyway, so the way he sculpts, he doesn't know what he's going to do. He's just pushing the clay, and then he's like, nah, and just pushing the other way, and it's like, oh, that's an arm, and then you find some flow happening. And I've seen that in drawing too. And I think Glenn Keane is saying that too. Yeah. If you see his drawings, they are really messy, but it's like the action, all action line, everything is just it's like pushing something toward happy
accidents,
happy creativity.
Yeah.
And I'm like that. I like seeing those characters, especially in 3D. You have a stance pose where the character is pretty neutral and dead. And animation is life. So you start with something that looks dead, and it kills me in a way. So I would just place some poses that are not great and all that, and try to make it flow, and then it brings, then I can see the feedback of it. And I'm like, oh, I don't like that, I like that, I'm going to push that. And I'm working also a lot. I think I'm one of the first animators to use a lot of layers in animation. So I used to work with layers in 3D Studio Max because it was on iPad, the plugin they used. And I was using layers in that. Then I used Motion Builder, and they had these layers that they picked from 3D Studio Max. And then Autodesk bought Kaidara. And it's funny because I went to Autodesk in Montreal and tried to explain how I liked layers and how to use it. And they pushed toward these tools that they have now in Maya. So I used it a lot, and I pushed Blue Sky to use layer animation. Like if you go to Blue Sky, you ask layers, they're going to say, "Oh, that's not
I mean, it's like powerful.
Layers.
It's powerful.
We call that Patrick. That's the
Patrick. Oh, Patrick. Use Patrick.
So layers. To me, it's the messiest thing you can find, because you have an animation and then you can do another animation on top of it and counter animate everything. So and then put another layer on top of it. But then that's crazy, because it's really like sculpting and having your the metal wire inside, and then you change the pose and you change again, and something starts to happen. You're like, I never thought about that before. Like, what's happening here? I didn't have that in mind, but it's better than what I had in mind.
Right.
And then you push it because it's there by
and you
mistake.
Kind of see that now, right?
But then you can enhance. And then if you know how to tame the layers, you can create clean poses out of it. And it's like I see those people drawing with shapes. And it's like shadows, and they cut in the shadows, and you're like, what is it? And then it's happening. The character is coming. And I like to work like that.
Okay, I got a question for you, because I've kind of feel the same way sometimes when I'm animating. Sometimes I'll see something like, okay, now I can kind of start feeling that. One of the things that I've heard oftentimes, though, is planning, right? So that'll help you in that. Where that kind of bites me back in the butt when I animate that way is it can take a little bit longer. Have you felt that same way for you? Is that something that you've developed more now as you've gotten more experience, or did you happen to find that same workflow when you weren't as experienced, maybe earlier on, and you just had to kind of continue to work through it? Did you get faster? How did you overcome some of those hurdles of being quick too?
So the thing is, it's two different things. So creativity in a way, and planning in other ways, it's really completely different. Which means that when I start an animation, I really know where I'm going. So it seems weird what I'm saying, but I know exactly the kind of acting I want, what the character needs to be doing. I shot many references. I'm going to watch the reference, cut the reference, reshoot again, do some drawings for the facial, and I know exactly where I want to go. Okay. But then from there, it's just it's just AutoCAD. Like you're doing the plan to do the house, but then you're gonna do the magic, and the magic that happens there, that's everything that makes the difference between a good animator or a so-so animator. Because when you have the plan, and you're gonna see that there are people who are really good at shooting references, and then you see the animation, you're like, there's something missing here.
Right.
And if you push it that way, and I think it's different for everyone, because not everyone works like that. But for me, it's like, I know where it's going, but I'm going to find a pose that is going to be pushing my plan. My plan is having this character being a bit sad, but you don't want to see it exactly. And then I'm going to push the shoulder and push the eyes and add a layer on top of it and try even more, change the axis, change the camera a little bit, and then maybe change completely this position like that. And that's going to change everything. That's going to push so much the acting, more than even an actor would do it, because it's so difficult to be angled at the right position to the camera. So I'm just enhancing the plan.
Gotcha.
The most I can. So
I like that,
if you see my animation, which is pretty rare, I think, because people are working in step mode with poses, they get approved, and then they stick to these poses. In my animation, it's always evolving. If you see the blocking, and at the end, the animation is the poses are completely different, but it's just an enhanced version of the first blocking. So the poses are different, but it's just a better version, more like there's more feeling to it. It didn't change the intention of the animation. The intention are planned, and I got approved by the soup and by the director.
I'm going to ask you something. I find, like, I'm trying not to lead on the answer, but do you find that's so hard, man? It's so hard. Do you find, and I think we touched on this on some other previous podcasts, maybe it was with Andrew. Do you find that you can, I'm trying to use the right word. Okay, I'll just say the word. Do you find that you can visualize what you're trying to get and then plan what you visualize?
I don't think I visualize it, but I think I know what I expect it to be, and it's not there. And then I push stuff. It's like pushing something to make it happen, and I'm like, it needs to feel that way, and it doesn't work. So it's like when you draw, you're like and you let the thing be on its own, and it's just pushing it to go the way you want, and then there's some life that happens on its own.
That is a hard thing. That's a very hard thing. Yeah. That's a hard thing, and it's hard to explain as much as it is hard to do. To get the whatever you call it, the magic, the essence, the truths, the sincerity of a performance or a movement, or of a character's thought, or of the whole sequence, right? That is a hard thing. The truth, sincerity, and this, because you can't lie.
Super hard.
I know. Yeah.
But what's really good to me is I think you just see that it doesn't work. And that helps a lot, because to me, when a character isn't alive, it's just animated, you feel it. And so you're going to push more, push until you're like, that's it. The voice is coming from him. The acting, he's doing it. He's the actor. Like sometimes I don't even see the main actor. I don't see his face. I just see my character, and it seems his soul is inside him. Yeah. At this point, I'm like, that's it. Yeah. I got it. And I think it's funny because you were asking about being fast or not. Animating, I'm super fast at that, and it helps a lot, because to me, being fast is also being good, because being fast, you can try so many things. So you animate fast, you test stuff, it doesn't work, you just dismantle everything. I don't mind, I just delete everything, just rebuild something super fast. I'm like, oh, I want that, I delete that. And I see those guys in modeling, they do the same. Like they sculpt and they just delete, they change things. And showing to the director, sometimes you're like, whoa, that's going to be difficult to make him approve that, because it's different. Maybe he won't like it. But what I found out is, if I do my job well, where there's a soul in the animation, and it's not, when I'm saying it, it feels like maybe it moves too much or whatever. It can be super subtle. Like I can push things where at some point I'm so deep into the shot that if I see it like 2 weeks later, I wouldn't even see the difference I made at this point. I spent an hour to do this difference. But at this point, it's like a superpower. You're like so much into it, so focused into it. You see stuff that only you see.
Yeah.
So you're just balancing all this, like the emotion, the movement, the physicality, but also the silhouettes and all that. So you're doing your own masterpiece. And at some point, you feel the life is coming from the character. And you show that to the director. And I'm telling you, I know that a lot of time, that's not what they expected, but they see it and like, oh man, it works. So you
can't say no to a truth. If the character is real and it's in its own world, and you don't see, like you say, you don't hear the actor, you don't think about, you actually look at a character like it was a person. You can't say no to that. It's just like it feels him. That's what he would do, or he or she or it would do.
Yeah.
I don't know, Rick. Does he seem enthusiastic about animation or what?
I love it. Yeah, man. Like I was like, Patrick,
this
man.
This guy's been in it for 20 plus years, and he's like, the truth. And here's the masterpiece. And I'm like,
yeah. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, why did you? I was like, I'm telling you, like, we serious. That's like, we love. We're gonna push the students. They don't like. We're talking about industry standards. Like, how do you get there? You just you fight for it. You want it. You gotta be hungry. You sleep on it. You wake up to it. Like that's what we're about. Patrick's exactly what we're about, and that's why he's gonna be teaching us, man. I'm not. If Jen is listening to this podcast, I've been training her. Listen to this, what he said. Like, we're gonna laugh so much about this because we're on set talking about this exactly right now. So It's awesome.
Very nice. From Blue Sky to DreamWorks, I know you've got to work on some really cool stuff. We mentioned a bit off recording earlier, the Croods, one of my absolute favorite ones. You said that you finished up here on the second one, and sequels are very tough. And you saying this one here, in your opinion, is in some ways better. What did you enjoy working on this film, particularly as a sequel with the characters and returning?
So the thing is, Greg, he has this.
Careful what you say.
Yeah, let's not. No spoilers.
We got a very good relationship with DreamWorks, so just right, and we want to keep that.
Spoilers.
DreamWorks, I love you guys. Keep it calm.
It's more about I think in the trailer, it's already there. You can see that Greg, he has this relationship with his family, and he wants to protect them. Sometimes he's not the best at it, but that's deep inside him. And with his daughter, it's difficult with Guy coming, and he's in love with her, and she's in love with him. So I think the new movie is all about that. And I had the chance to work a lot on Greg. And that was amazing because that was me. Like I could act like if it was my situation. That was great.
Now the first one, was that one done on Emo or Primo?
The first one, I don't know. I wasn't on the first one. I think it was on Emo. Yeah, I think it might have been.
Okay, because I was wondering if there was a difference from now working, because we're talking about software. We're talking about being able to animate well and not having to have as many hurdles with the rigs and stuff like that in the software. And I know Primo has been obviously a big improvement. So I was curious if you had.
Yeah, so that's the thing about Primo, and that's the thing I enjoyed so much also on the Croods. I did like 5 minutes of animation in the movie.
Wow.
It's like maybe 8 months of work. And it's like crazy scenes, like actings between characters, choreography, like 10 characters all the time. And Primo is able to handle that. So it's just fun. You're animating without being stopped by the software, the constraint from the technology. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, and I felt it at some point. I was like, whoa, I'm animating like I think. There's no, because at some point you have a schedule and you're like, okay, I'm going to make it a bit more simple because I need to finish it by the end of the week. But here I'm like, whoa, I'm going to make it even more complex. Like there's going to be some contacts and stuff. And I don't mind because it's real time. We don't have a Playblast tool for example. It's all real time all the time. So it's not even inside the software. You can have 10 characters. So
it's like a game
that's
engine.
amazing.
It's like a game engine. That's what it is.
Yeah. I've heard great. We have some of our alumni who've graduated our program working over there, and they just kind of mentioned what a great vibe the DreamWorks studio is right now. Is that been your assessment and the kind of renaissance, so to speak, of what's kind of going on over there?
Yeah, I think, especially for me, because coming from Blue Sky is really competitive. It's a lot of young people, super competitive, so you have to fight your way there. And it's good because that makes you good the level is super high and you try to push yourself to stay up to the task. DreamWorks is totally different. Already the average age is older. So people are there. They've been working on Prince of Egypt. Some of them, they've been there for 25 years. Mm-hmm. They have nothing to prove. They are just super talented. So you're right there with a level that is super high. I felt like even like a step above. I was like, whoa, so many great animators. Yeah. And I love that, because if you have this level, now you need to reach this level. So that was something new to me. Like, oh, I'm going to have to push myself even more. And I worked with this animator, Rani Naami, and on the Croods. The guy is amazing. And I was like, that's the level I need to push toward. And I felt at the end of the movie, I kind of reached this level, because I pushed myself on this way. And I was like, that's this kind of experiences, moving from studio to another, different styles, different softwares, different culture. I learned a lot. And those guys, it's just another, I don't know, it's less of a fight and trying to show how good you are doing your masterpiece on a shot. It's more like, we have this ton of experience. We are building a movie as a team. How do we help each other to make the film better? Mm. And I found out that, for example, for me, it was a shame to shoot references for someone and someone would shoot references for me, because I was like, it's part of the creativity. Like, I need to shoot my own references for my shot and then animate what I've done. But I found out that some of the animators in DreamWorks, their face helped doing the designs of some characters. Yeah. And you're like, whoa, so they are just those characters. They are just the best references to be doing those characters. And then you have like women or girls that are amazing at doing this girl. And I'm not. Like, I don't know, my shoulders, they don't work like that. I'm not. So doing Grog is really nice, but I can't do it. So you would ask others, and they are amazing at doing those references. And then you see how they use it, how you might use it. And it's just...
No egos and just working together, huh?
Yeah. No egos at this point. And I think, and that's what I learned during my career, when someone is really good, he won't be cocky about it. He's just here to help you because he has nothing to prove. He doesn't feel threatened by you because that's it. He did it already. So I really enjoy that in DreamWorks. It's more about that. Like, just no one is here to try to be better than you. It's just let's all be good.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. Well, we've taken a lot of your time, and there's been some really cool stuff in this. And so we're excited to release this podcast. You'll be teaching in our feature workshop class. We'll end up announcing, which workshop particularly. But we're just really happy to have you here, and we look forward. I love this passion. It's one of the things for me as an alumni. I'm like, I want to sneak in and watch those recordings. Absolutely. I'm really excited to have you here. So thank you so much, Patrick.
Yes, that was really nice to be with you.
Likewise.
Awesome. All right. With that, we're out.